Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Mokwariola. In a world where substance use, abuse and misuse remains a source of global concern, substances with psychoactive mind-altering properties continue to ensure that not everyone on the street is in the right state of mind. In Africa, tobacco smoking is ranked top among silent killers, especially for so-called science students whom are in the habit of taking illicit items just to get either high over the moon or low under the influence. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on tobacco use, regulation and control in Africa? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC News NG. We take a report now, and Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
This year's World No Tobacco Day theme is Tobacco and Heart Disease, which focuses on tobacco use as a key risk factor in heart-related diseases, including stroke. According to the World Health Organization, the tobacco epidemic is one of the biggest public health threats the world has faced. Tobacco use and exposure to secondhand smoking contributes to about 12% of all heart diseases. In Africa alone, more than 140,000 adults from the age of 30 die yearly from tobacco-related diseases.
So our effort is to engage and ensure that Nigerians know the harmful effect of tobacco use, because tobacco causes all manners of illness. It affects every part of the body. It leads to cancer, it aggravates asthma, it leads to heart problems, because this year is dealing with tobacco and heart problems. It leads to heart problems, it affects reproductive organs, and the rest of it. So every part of the human body is affected by the use of tobacco, and most of the time citizens don't know about this. The worst aspect of it is that tobacco contains a product called nicotine, and nicotine is very, very addictive.
Right from the point of cultivating tobacco crops, you have what is known as the green leaf disease that comes with the exposure of tobacco products on the farms.
There have been calls for more policies and greater political commitment to regulating tobacco and promoting smoke-free environments. This, it is believed, will help contribute to improving the health and well-being of all people.
In terms of working progressively towards a reduction in tobacco use and consumption is to, first of all, have in place very strict policies and laws that tackles at the heart of the issue of tobacco use.
So we are also calling on the National Assembly, both the federal government and that's the executive and National Assembly, for them to expedite action, for us to have a regulation that will help us to administer the National Control Act.
Africa is believed to be at the receiving end of tobacco trade, and this has resulted in the call for the ratification of the Illicit Trade Protocol on Tobacco.
Welcome back. Now, caught in between the ecstasy of tobacco use and the consequence of battling heart-related diseases, tobacco epidemic arguably is the biggest public health threat the world has ever faced, killing more than 7 million people each year. In Africa, more than 140,000 adults above the age of 30 die every year from tobacco-related diseases, leading to avoidable premature loss of lives with negative effect on families, society and the nation at large. Joining me now on Skype, I have Akimbode Oluwafemi, tobacco control advocate and Deputy Director of Environmental Rights Action, Friends of the Earth, Nigeria. And I also have Charity Ainobe Isakaren, Coordinator of Health Promotion, Education and Community Development Initiative in Nigeria. Good to have you both on the program. So let's begin with you now, Charity. Let's talk about what really is the essence for celebrating World No Tobacco Day.
To start with, the essence for celebrating the World No Tobacco Day is actually to intimate everybody around the world on the health risks associated with using tobacco as well as tobacco products. Now, the catch is that having a specific day set aside to celebrate World No Tobacco Day gives the drive we want to catch the attention of the world. As such, everybody's attention is drawn to a particular motive, which is no tobacco, but looking at our health.
And how much attention has been given on the dangers of tobacco to health?
Sorry, please come again.
How much attention has been given on alerting the public on the possible dangers of tobacco to health?
I would say attention has been given to it, but we actually need more than attention being drawn to tobacco control. I say that because some persons already know the harmful effects associated with using tobacco as well as other tobacco products. But they still go ahead to make use of this product. There are other factors, many other factors attached to this that create this habit. But the essence of the World No Tobacco Day is to draw attention, one, as well as bring in more hands, because this tobacco control issue is not just an objective for one body alone. For instance, the World Health Organization is not just for one body alone, but all hands need to be on board to actually tackle it, because it's a public health issue. It concerns everybody, so it can't be left in the hands of just one body alone.
All right, let me quickly turn the attention to Olufemi, who joins me now on Skype. Olufemi, from what Charity has said, there is much to be done in terms of creating awareness for people to understand the dangers of perhaps tobacco smoking. But from what she said, some people still know the dangers of tobacco smoking and yet go ahead to, well, try this substance. Why do you think this urge keeps increasing despite the knowledge that it is harmful to health?
Well, thanks very much, Esther. Let me tell you that tobacco is extremely addictive. It's an addictive product because it's a nicotine dispensing mechanism. Beyond the addiction is also the fact that the environment in Africa seems to be permissible to, the business of the tobacco industry. There are lack of regulations. Taxes on tobacco products are low. Awareness about the dangers caused by tobacco products are also very low. When you put all these together, you find out that you still have the consistent increase of 4% across the region every year in relation to the number of smokers. The FCTC is the roadmap about what governments, particularly in Africa, needs to do. And that in itself has some key points, which is, number one, is to educate the citizens about the dangers of tobacco use. Put in place smoke-free policies, monitor the activities of the tobacco industry, impose appropriate taxation on tobacco products so that they are priced beyond the reach of the young and the poor. So make people pay to smoke. All this, along with other policies, are what we need in this region to be able to bring down tobacco use in our communities.
All right, let me quickly go on a quick break. Now you're watching Africa Today, and we've been looking at tobacco use, regulation and control in Africa. Welcome back. Tobacco use and exposure to secondhand smoke contributes about 12% of all heart disease deaths, especially when there is no hiding place for people who find themselves in the same room with smokers. Coincidentally, the theme of this year's No Tobacco Day is focused on heart disease, with the World Health Organization for more measures in strengthening tobacco control and improve on the well-being of people, especially in Africa. So, Charity, the statistics of people, taking in tobacco is really increasing by the day. And from what you understand, secondhand smokers have a liability to even die young, more than those who take in the smoke. But if this is the case in Africa, and we have a poor health system in some African countries, how do you think we can address issues that affect the life of ordinary citizens who do not have access to health care?
First and foremost, the issue of healthcare, I think the Federal Ministry of Health is in the right path in tackling that, talking about the using the primary healthcare system to ensure every Nigerian has equal access to healthcare. But then coming back to the issue of ensuring how we can ensure people, others who are not smokers, talking about the passive smokers now,
right,
how can also ensure they are taken care of. This is where the issue of implementing our policy comes in. Now, it is, you can find in our 2016 National Tobacco Control Act, where it states that, for instance, someone living in a residence, for instance, if a smoker is in a residence, you can't smoke, there's a certain distance because you can't smoke within that environment where other non-smokers are, especially if there are children below 18 years of age. Now, when policies like this are not just on paper alone, but well implemented, I think the passive smoker, the health of the passive smoker would invariably be taken care of. Then another thing that I strongly believe would also help is if we be our brother's keeper. I'll give you an instance. There are in certain buildings, they give sections where smokers go to, call it the smokers area. They to smoke there so that they don't interfere with those who are not smokers, talking about the passive smokers. Now, if we are conscious of things like this, I'm not saying it's a good thing to smoke. Personally, I would actually prefer if smoking is a thing of the past, but we can't just say individuals who are smoking should leave the planet. Let me use that term. So if we're actually our brother's keeper, taking into consideration the health of our fellow Nigerians or fellow Africans, I don't think people dying as a result because they are passive smokers would be on the increase or would actually be of very serious issue.
Now, let me quickly come to you now, Bode. From what you said earlier on, you mentioned that lack of regulation of tobacco use is a problem in most African countries today. How do you think you can effectively control tobacco use, even though we have legislations, guarding against tobacco?
Communities that you have a large chunk of the population that doesn't read or write. And that's why in FCTC provisions and in our National Tobacco Control Act, you have provisions like, the use of pictograms so that smokers who cannot read or write will be able to, understand the dangers that tobacco causes. Look, there is no substitute for strong, effective tobacco control measures. I think this is the time for African governments to, enact laws, put in place regulations that will protect the citizens in places that we even have laws like South Africa, like Nigeria. Some of those laws are actually due for reviews. So to ensure that we can effectively rein in this industry that is the gateway to drug. And we're also witnessing an epidemic of drug in our continent, in Nigeria. So delay, as they say, is dangerous. Nigeria currently has a set of regulation that needs to be passed or approved by Parliament. Several other countries have legislations in the works. Some countries are working on banning shisha. There is the menace of shisha across Africa. There is the introduction of e-cigarettes by tobacco companies because they are every day becoming very innovative to continue to get our people hooked. I think governments also needs to be very innovative and creative in adopting policies. Of course, there's a lot for us as CSOs to do in terms of educating our communities. And I must say congratulations to Charity, who has won this year's WHO award in Nigeria, working from Benin. We need more of charity in our communities, in our states, in our local areas, to begin to take these messages to the grassroots so that we can, get our people off the tobacco hook.
Now, we've seen more measures on codeine, like some people would say, but why aren't we seeing the same on tobacco, which seems to be a global problem?
Well, I think there is the illicit drug use is illicit drug use. The unfortunate thing about tobacco is that tobacco remains a legal product. Tobacco has a vector, which is the tobacco industry, that are richer than several other African countries put together. We're talking about corporations that have 50 billion annual budget, some $80 billion annual budget. They have enough resources, they have enough wealth, they have enough of communication, adverts, experts who can continue to lure our kids through very deceptive methods. So that's why we're having, this approach to tobacco control. And you could see that when the codeine upsurge came up, the federal government moved very quickly and swiftly in terms of getting the pharmaceutical company to actually look at their, supply chain. And you could see some, marginal changes, but there have been action in that area because those are illicit use of those substances and drugs. They cannot be used in the open or in the public. So that's the major difference between them and tobacco.
So from what you're trying to say now, it's going to be more of a hard task to finally, will I say, eliminate tobacco use in some parts of Africa. Is that what you're trying to say now?
Yeah, well, see, for people like us, I would like to see a complete ban of tobacco use, but economists and experts around the world are telling us that you're going to be dealing with the biggest, underground syndicates across the world. So the law of demand and supply comes in here. So what we're trying to do is to reduce supply and as well reduce demand over time. And let me tell you, Esther, this is working. There is a report from France that said about 1 million people dropped the sticks over 1 year after the introduction of the ban of smoking in bars and restaurants. There are evidences around the world that these measures can work. So we expect that they will also work on our continent.
All right, Charity, now let's look at another issue which pertains to quitting tobacco. Some people are saying that it's addictive, permit me for saying coming out that way, but do you think perhaps we can have, individuals quitting tobacco altogether? Is it possible?
Possible. The big message I think that we should be passing on, I don't know, maybe for World No Tobacco Day for 2019 is that it is possible to quit, and not just quit, but to also stand as role models to others who think it's impossible to quit. There are laid out, criteria, so to speak, on how people can quit. But the first step is the willingness. I call it the willingness system. It's the willingness to actually want to quit. If individuals who are willing to quit actually want to, they can receive help to help them quit. But if the willingness isn't there, and then their help, their assistance, the support is also not there, then we have a big problem at hand. Then talking about helping people quit, that is a secondary measure. In HPCDI, what I and my team, we actually try to do is cut off demand. I heard my other colleague who was speaking talk about the demand and the supply aspect. What we try to do is cut off the demand. And how do we do that? By reaching potential future tobacco consumers. They've not yet started using, but they do have the potential of consuming. And statistics show you can find them in a little bit of primary school, but mostly in secondary school. So these are our targets. And we don't just go there, preach to them that tobacco would harm your health. You could have cardiovascular disease or cancer or reproductive problems. Some of them already know this. The internet, having a phone at hand, has made the world a global village. So you can easily access information like that and you keep yourself updated. What we do is go beyond health educating them so that they go beyond, health informing them so that they become educated. So that they will be able to make the choice on their own not to engage in tobacco consumption. And we do this by engaging them. We have to engage the youth. Africa boasts, I think, about 35% youth population below age 30. So we have a lot of things to do, a lot of work to do in ensuring that we train, we groom a tobacco-free generation,
right,
while helping to ensure those who are already using, we help them quit.
All right, now, to bring us home now, what would be your final point with raising the fact that tobacco use can be defeated? Hello, Femi, I asked you, what is your final take on this matter with regards to controlling tobacco use? Yes, go ahead.
Well, at this point, the message is to African governments that there is a consensus and agreement now that we need to work on tobacco use on the continent. It's also the point for which we are urging government to begin to put budgetary resources. For instance, in Nigeria, we're asking the Nigerian government to set up the Tobacco Control Fund as provided for by the National Tobacco Control Act, so that there will be enough resources for government itself to be able to do what it needs to do. So African governments at this point should begin to link tobacco control with development. Without a healthy population, you cannot develop. They should begin to look at creative and innovative means of funding tobacco control activities like taxation. They should begin to raise taxes and even use tobacco taxes to fund development across the continent.
All right. Thank you very much, Akimbode Oluwafemi, tobacco control advocate and deputy director of environmental rights action, and as well Charity Ainobe Sakaren, coordinator of National Health Promotion, Education and Community Development Initiative in Nigeria, for your thoughts on Africa today at this time.
Thank you very much.
Another year, another World No Tobacco Day, and another opportunity to highlight the concerns, draw attention to the dangers and raise the bar on regulations of tobacco, ensuring that the days when Africa's future looked covered in smoke are effectively in the past. Going forward, preventing dire medical and socio-economic consequences would entail relentless awareness campaigns and aggressive interventions in tobacco control within the continent and around the world. And that is our package for today. But don't forget to join the conversation on Twitter at TVC News NG, and also follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one, I am Esther Mokwariola, and always remember, Africa can only get better.